Good afternoon. The February 7th meeting, the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes for the January 17th meeting.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. Next item is a consent docket.
Move this consent docket subject to individual consideration.
A motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Are there items to be looked at individually? Well, hearing none, voting please. Consent docket's approved. Next item is item 4. It's the concurrence docket.
Move the concurrence docket.
Motion and a second to approve the concurrence docket. Comments, questions? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrence docket is approved. Item 5 is items for individual consideration. The first one is a resolution authorizing the general manager to negotiate an agreement with COTPA for the purchase of office space.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item 6A. Comments or questions?
Define purchase.
My understanding is we're buying a condo that is the office portion of the building.
I didn't know that. Okay.
We've been leasing it for several years.
Knew that.
We don't have an option really to expand in the downtown area that's more cost effective than this. A traditional lease, we believe, would take us farther away. We're looking at potentially moving our customer service people into that building so that customers could park in the garage and access this in a more convenient way than they do currently. We think it has some strengths for us and gives us some flexibility.
Okay.
Further questions concerning the office space? Hearing none, voting please. Item 6 or 5A is approved. Item 5B is an authorized repayment by the Cleveland County District Court in a matter, condemnation matter.
Move approval.
Having a motion and a second to approve item 5B. The questions?
Is that the builder, Jim Bowers Jr.?
I suspect it is.
I don't know. That would be my assumption as well.
Well, it's a junior. You might expect that it probably is the same person. Any further comments? Hearing none, voting please. Item 5B is approved. Item 5C is a resolution authorizing payment of $211.50 to Oklahoma County on behalf of a truck operator for a fine.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve.
I have a question. Would we normally pay a fine for a contractor?
This was our employee going to southeastern Oklahoma to work on an emergency repair along the Atoka pipeline. He was purposely leaving early to be able to get to the repair in the short daylight hours. His supervisors told him to go, and I think we learned a lesson about not taking a big truck out before 9 in the morning.
The employee was not operating the vehicle negligently or in any other way. He was operating it safely. There was a determination that needed to be made because oversized vehicles can only be moved after a permitting process and only between certain hours of the day. When a 16-inch line breaks, there's an emergency there, and so a decision had to be made as to what was in the better public safety. And so because the employee was not doing anything that was negligent or otherwise unlawful, we felt like it was a business decision as opposed to a bad driving decision.
Are there any other organizations that are similarly affected?
The fire department, since some of their larger vehicles are affected, we are looking into how they operate within those parameters. We believe that they have an MOU and some side agreements that enable them to put their vehicles on the road, and we're looking to pursue that also for the utilities.
Is there anybody who might join us in this legislative venture to get some relief?
Possibly. I think we need to think about how much effort and time and do we want to put in legislation for $200?
Just pay the fine.
That happens on such a rare instance, but the answer to that is yeah, maybe possibly.
Further questions or comments? We do have a motion, right? Have a motion and a second for approval. Voting, please. Item 5C is approved. It's my understanding that we do not need executive session.
That's correct.
Just strike that. Next item is items from the trustees. Are there matters from the trustees to discuss?
Question, how beneficial is the rain in the western part of Oklahoma?
It made some impact, not, of course, we hoped for a gully washer kind of rain, and despite getting good rainfalls, like Canton is up about a foot, another 4,500 acre feet over its last report. There's been a flow down the North Canadian River that we've been capturing in Lake Hefner. That is dwindling. I think the maximum was around 300 acre feet coming in the lake, and 300 CFS coming in the lake, and now it's down to around 100. But the continued wet weather should continue to produce some level of rain.
Is the condition of the river such that we might consider a water release from Canton?
It may be. We'll take a look.
Well, how far is Canton down? The report's messed up here, so it doesn't give an elevation on it.
Canton today is down just a little over 10 feet.
Okay. We might want to correct the report because I would hate that some of our adversaries at this point in time might think that Canton is 1,600 feet below full. I could just see if we did that to Canton, just think what we're going to do to another lake.
We will so do. McGee Creek is in its floodplain and releasing water. At this time, Lake Atoka is at about 5 feet below full, and coming up very slowly. Lake Hefner is at just under 1194.
Mr. Ryan, in a February time frame, when Hefner's down 6 feet probably at this point in time, with spring rain generally coming in March and April, I think we'd really have to think hard about whether this is the right time to take a release from Canton. Yeah.
We'll look at the long-range forecast and do our best guess about timing. That's something that we are acutely aware of, is the condition of the river.
Further comments from trustees? If not, we can move on to the general manager report, and we've already discussed that a little bit, the status report on the from the utilities department, at least as to with regard to lake levels.
We have it. At the half year, we'd sold 1,330 new water meters. That's a low total level, better than last year, but still what we would consider low normal growth rate in meters sold. We discussed the lake levels. Water use was actually right at the same as the previous year, which is the first month of the fiscal year in which it has been much higher. I think that's more because the drought began last January than anything else. But we're currently at 3.4 billion gallons ahead of the previous year, or almost 10% ahead of normal. Wastewater continues to be dry, indicating that our groundwater is not fully replenished. We have received reports of some illegal activities off-roading on our property at Southeast 59th and Douglas, and we're following up. Lisa Hubble is helping us work with the police department to get some of those behaviors corrected. They're infringing on neighborhood activities, as well as doing some turf damage to our property. Finally, we are preparing for a controlled burn at Lake Stanley Draper. Staff met with the forestry and associated support people like police and fire who would help us with the controlled burn yesterday, and determined that it's currently wet enough, that the turf is wet enough that we'll look at a burn around February the 20th or later. We're looking at the south end of the lake, the actual south end of the lake between Westminster and Douglas Boulevard for the first attempt.
What was the, Douglas, and what was the eastern boundary?
Westminster.
Westminster.
We're looking for a wind that blows due north across the lake to impact the fewest number of people. And it's a complex but well-prepared for plan.
Certainly a lot of work's been done to get ready for this burn. I think hopefully the experience of the last one is going to make this one even more productive than the first one was. Hopefully it's going to be a little bit hotter, for one thing. But we appear to be much better shape. A lot of the red cedars are already down and hauled off, and so some of that's going to... I'm interested in watching it. Any other comments, questions? Any other business, any citizens to be heard? I believe that's all. We stand adjourned.